This lesson is going to teach you about prioritizing anything in your personal life or your business life. In today's world, we have so much coming at us from every angle, between social media, between our jobs, between our family life, which has been totally upended with COVID and dealing with new realities. There are a lot of distractions, and it's very easy to feel that you're very busy, but also feel like you're not getting anything done. And what I feel is fundamental in life is prioritization. Ray Dalio has this thing: you can have anything that you want, but you can't have it all. And I love that quote. When you essentially are choosing to do something, you're choosing to not do something at the same time. So prioritization became something I really wanted to focus on. And I had my researcher go through and look at prioritization frameworks in the product management space. So if we could think about products that you use, your iPhone or Google Maps or, Spotify, those companies have something that's called a product manager. And those product managers have very mature frameworks for prioritizing what they're going to build. What they choose to actually execute on is pivotal to those companies' success. So my researcher, she went through 19 of those frameworks. Some of them were more complicated than others. Perhaps some were more precise. What I landed on was something that I find to be more simplistic. It's nothing new. It's one of the models that's out there. And I have been using it in my own prioritization. It's made a huge impact. She also went through prioritization frameworks for other fields. Nursing was a big one. From what I understand, that there's tests for nurses on how they prioritize patients. Could you imagine you have 10 very sick patients on a floor? How do you go about choosing who you treat first with limited staff? So prioritization is very important in life and death situations as well. So we went through those, and where I found what I came back to was I wanted to have something simplistic that I could jump to, that I could use in my everyday decision making. Prioritization, I feel, is one of those things that's going to be timeless. We don't think about prioritization as something like that's going to be timeless. We think of other things as to be timeless, but still 10,000 years from now, people are going to be deciding what do they choose to work on in relation to other things. And when you choose to work on things, of course, you can't work on those other things that you have decided not to work on. So prioritization is a core thing. So we're going to get into it here and show you the model that I think is very easy to understand in our life. So the first one is this model that's called value versus cost. Okay, so that's going to be pretty obvious. Now, what I love about this is it's natural and instinctual. When we go out to the store, we're thinking value versus cost. If you look on johncraig.com, I have a lot of stuff around value proposition and how people are perceiving value and so forth. And that's a whole topic in itself. Today's lesson is really about prioritization, and value versus cost is a great model for this. Another variation of this, and I'll just get into this in a second, but another model here is value versus complexity. Okay? Value versus complexity is essentially very similar. When you're thinking about building those products, an engineering problem can be very complex. So someone comes back and says, okay, we're going to build an iPhone, but it's going to strap around your head. The engineers are going to come back and say, I know the market would love that, but it's not going to work for the engineering, or vice versa. So complexity, I wrap these up into the same thing. Another one that you'll see is other words for value you'll see is benefit versus cost. Okay, and there's those things. We're going to show you a grid on this, or I'm going to show you a grid on this in a second. Another one that I love personally for decision making that's not necessarily a prioritization method, but it's more of a decision making thing, is something called risk versus reward. And I love that all the time. So if I'm deciding to go do something with my kids, I think about, how happy are they going to be versus the risk that they're going to take. Hoverboards are this big thing that everyone loves. And I, might get some comments, you're too strict, but my kids can do lots of other things that are fun other than hoverboards. So risk versus reward on that scale scores poorly for me. So that's a model that I use. It's loosely related to this. Keep that in mind as something that's loosely related when you're making other decisions in business or life. That's closely related to this matrix. So I'm going to go through here and I'm going to show you the matrix, and I'm going to show you some good ways to have a good mental model to think about this. So we're going to go with value versus cost for this instead of value versus complexity. So if I do a grid here and do value on this side, and then I do cost on the bottom, and then we do a matrix here. Okay? Now, if we have a high value, it's going to be up here. And if it's going to be a high cost, it's going to be over here. Okay? So high cost and high value will be over here. And then, so let's go through these quadrants one at a time here. So value versus cost. Let's just say that I'm going to start up here because this is my favorite place to focus, is what I call quick wins. This is where you can do something that's a low cost and a high value, okay? Those are the things that you can, if you can find those, you execute on those, you can execute on those all day long, right? So I'm going to put cost, and I'm also going to put the complexity down here just so we have this model here. Complexity, and also just to give you something to tie back for value, let's just think about this as benefit as well, okay? So quick wins, these are things that you want to focus on first, okay? Now, the other one here, if there's something that's high value and it's going to take you some time and some complexity, these are riskier, these are big bets. This is what I like to call my long-term initiatives. So this is my long-term thinking way of thinking, and I'm executing on these things all day long, okay? So let's just say long-term initiatives. Okay, long-term initiatives. And then if we think about high cost and a low value, we're going to put over here, these are the ones like I say, no way. It's going to take me a year and I'm going to get like hardly anything out of it. The customers don't want it, whatever. That's a no way. Okay. And then these over here, where there's low value but there's low effort, there's a lot of these things that need to be done. There are little tweaks to a product or there are a task in your life, like getting the weeds done in your house or whatever. That, something that I see as like a low value thing. These I'll do or I'll take care of, but I always try to delegate these. So this is my bucket where I delegate. Okay, so those are the big ones that were like the weeding one that I brought up. If I can spend my time not weeding my yard and I can delegate that someone, I'm going to delegate it. It's a very low, it makes the house aesthetically better. And of course, I don't want my house overrun, but that's something that's it's a low value to me in relation to other things in my life, right? So this is the delegate pile. So this is low. Put low and low here. And we put high and high here. Those are things that I delegate. Now, where should you spend your time in your life? Obviously, you want to do quick wins, but you don't want to just always focus here. You need to think long term too. So where I am always focusing, I have my wallpaper that has this on it on my desktop, is here, an even amount of time in this space. So I put something focused there. So when I set up, there'll be other things on johncraig.com, which is basically this weekly planning session I have that I do every week that I execute on, and I'll share that spreadsheet as well. And when I'm looking at things for the week, I'm always focusing on things that I want to achieve in my life and these pillars that I have, which are, executing on my family and contribution and other these attributes that I execute on. But within those buckets, on the tasks that I actually perform, I'm always looking to focus on these things. It might be something I'm doing for a long term. There's things that I've been doing for 6 or 7 months now on that list that have been these long term initiatives. Then some weeks, when I can find these quick wins, when I've made a great new business contact that I can reach out to, send an email, offer them something, link them up with somebody, that's something that could have a huge return. It's a quick email, it's something that I can do. I can help somebody out, and those kind of relationship building things are, to me, quick wins. Those are high value, building relationships in business where you can help other people and all those kind of things that take minimal amount of time. Those are the big quick wins, because those are things that you can really that really turn into things down the road. So that's basically it. That's my prioritization framework. What I love about this is that it's easy to remember. So if you remember anything out of here, remember value versus cost. Okay? That's where you want to end with value costs. Always focus on high value. Some things might be quick, some things might take longer, but always focus on the things that are high value. Delegate the low value things, and things that are low value and take a ton of effort, never do them. That's it. I hope this was helpful, and leave a message in the video. Thank you so much.